That's real. All right, just got done with normal Tuesday practice. No more mock days of any kind. We're just actually getting to play a real game this week, which is awesome. So normal Tuesday practice today. Been a normal week since Sunday for us. I thought really good work. I thought they were as intentional as they have been. You could tell they're giddy about getting to play somebody else. The challenge to us as a football team, really as a program, is worry about today and nothing else. And that's what the challenge was this morning to them, from the team meeting to after practice. Just worry about today. Let's get our process right. We started school yesterday, so there's another factor into their prep. But I thought it was really intentional, really, really good. We're back to really healthy right now, which is exciting, and getting ready for Bethune-Cookman. So I'll open it up to questions.
What's your feeling about openers generally, just for doing everything right and making sure everything's squared away? Just how prepared you are, how prepared they are, just the first time out, historically, how's it going?
Yeah, I think the challenge is to make sure all your ducks are in a row and you've covered every single situation that could come up. It's so factored into camp where you're working every situation that could come up. We had the mock game on Saturday, every situation that could come up. Little scenarios you could see, you watch games, if you watch football, week 1, week 2, you see pre-snap penalties that are totally preventable. Like, that's my biggest fear is looking silly, not snapping the ball after a kickoff return and taking a delay a game. Too many people on the field, not enough people on the field. You see those things. Those are all things that you, as a coach, you learn from other people's mistakes, and you hope they're not your mistakes. Things like mock games and mock situations of when do you take timeouts. There's a new factor with this 2-minute warning now, where all your charts at the end of a game change, all of your scenarios change. So working through all of those things, it's almost you feel like you could screw it up if you aren't locked into making sure you're adjusting your checklist and changing with the times. The coach to player stuff is different. The tablets on the sideline is different. We had the luxury of playing in the bowl game with the tablets and got a chance to see how that works. So there's a lot of things that are different. It's just a matter of, as a coaching staff, being prepared. That's my job. That's our job, to make sure that our kids know the situation. And I think certainly from a coaching side that we've checklisted everything, we've coached everything, we've mock gamed everything, so our kids are prepared.
I presume, and I may be wrong, that with the helmet communication now, you don't have to do all the hand signals anymore?
Yeah, trade secret that you'll find out on game day, but we've certainly adjusted on both sides of the ball. Just like anything else, try to find the advantage and the loophole and everything. But it'll be fun to watch and see what it looks like.
Alex, you mentioned a 2-minute warning. You're driving down the field, the end of the first half or the end of the game, looking to score. That can kind of get in the way. It's still momentum, right? Especially for an up-tempo offense. It's the reality now. But
yeah, what's interesting for us, the whole 2-minute, offensively at least, the whole 2-minute drill is fascinating. You hear different coaches. I've been to a bunch of OTAs, mini camps in the NFL, and that 2-minute drill is such a coached part of the game. For us, that's how we play. So there isn't a whole lot of coaching outside of scenarios that could come up, how the clock is different now. Out of bounds stops the clock. First down, stop the clock. So you're coaching through that. Your guys got to understand what's going on. But in terms of pace of play and how you play, we're built for it. Now, can the 2-minute warning stop momentum? It'll either stop momentum, or if it ain't going real good, it kind of lets you reset a little bit. So I think it can go either way. And certainly defensively, it allows you to regroup a little bit and go. So I think where the adjustment is going to be big is in a 4-minute situation where you're up in a game, and now the team trying to get the ball back has an extra timeout, essentially, to stop the clock. And that's what I was talking about earlier with your charts now got to change. When you could take a knee with no timeouts now has to change, because you automatically have a 2-minute timeout built in. So I think that's where it'll drastically change for us.
Coach, does the start of season number 2 feel a little bit different for you, because you had really a legitimate off season where you got to really start to build your program the way you wanted it, from nutritionist to weightlifting to everything. So does the start of this Saturday feel a little bit different because you had that full season?
Yeah, a lot different. I've been in the stadium now, so way different. You feel like you know your roster. You feel like you know your team. You feel like you know where you have advantages. You feel like you know where your holes are. You feel like you know what you're going to get out of the guys at least a lot closer. Now, we still have 40-some new guys, so there's still a quarter of or a third of the roster is still new, so you don't know what you're going to get out of those guys completely, but you certainly feel like you know what you have going in. You know guys' mindset going in, and so do they. So do the players. I think so much is made of, man, it's our second year as a staff. It's also the guys that are coming back, and we got a ton of guys back. It's also their understanding of how we are on game day, what their process looks like, what our process throughout a week looks like. Even simple things like, man, what is the process from going to the hotel on a Friday to a kickoff on a Saturday? They know what to expect just as much as we do. So certainly a bigger level of comfort. I know where our locker room is now. All those things that you had no idea a year ago, and I think it'll make for an easier, smoother transition into game day. But at the end of the day, you still strap it on. You still got to go play, and it'll be fun to watch, but certainly a lot more comfortable.
Your fans are going to have a different outlook on week 2 for your opponent than they will week 1. Human nature, and FBS plays FCS. And I know you have an experience where you played and lost to an FCS school somewhere in your career too. So what's the mindset where everybody around you is just like, they're not thinking anything but other than a victory is going to happen. So what kind of mindset do you have to take with the team when you play an FCS school?
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time talking about what that mindset should be. I mean, you talk about a year ago for us, our opener against one of the better FCS teams in the entire country, and it was a dogfight all the way until the fourth quarter. I think you earn the right to expect to win with what your week looks like. You earn the right in week 1. You earn the right to expect to win by what camp looked like and what the summer looked like. The outside expectations are certainly raised. We've talked about that a bunch, and our guys understand that it hasn't affected us or how we go about our business. And the challenge, like I said at the beginning, the challenge to our guys, regardless of who we're playing, is winning today and just making sure that we work on our process today. And that can't change based on who your opponent is. Teams that get up and get down and up and get down, those are inconsistent teams. That was us a year ago. And that's teams that are learning how to win end up going up and down in their process, getting hyped for one game, not working like they should for another. I could tell you through what the mock game looked or the mock week looked like for us a week ago, and then what today looked like. Our guys are preparing like they're going to play in the Super Bowl. And so the end result will be what the end result is. You've heard me say that a million times, but there's not a greater expectation outside of here than there is inside our walls. And the only expectation we have is to make sure our process is perfect. And then the outcome will be what the outcome is. I'll get evaluated on the wins and losses. I get that.
Sorry, speaking of expectations, obviously there's more surrounding this program than there has been the past couple of years. Can your players feel that, and do you want them to feed off that, or do you try and keep some of that noise on the outside?
Yeah, we spend a bunch of time. Well, first, the fact there are expectations is awesome. That's what it should be. This is a place that we've talked about a ton, but this is a place that should have expectations. This is a place that should win every year. This is a place that, with the resources we have and we've been given, we should expect to win every week, regardless of who we play. And we will, whenever that time comes, that we're actually ready for that. And it may be this year. I have no idea, but there should be expectations put on this program. There should also be the support to match it. And we're in Tampa. There's 50,000 students. This place has been a top 5 program in the country. There should be expectations put on us. We spent a lot of time over the last 6 months talking that's real, but also talking about our inner circle. And we've spoken about it 3 different times through fall camp, that the only opinions that matter are your true inner circle, which is your coaches, your teammates, the people in this building. Nobody else's opinion matters. And those are also the only people that will ever tell you the truth. And I'm not saying negate your family or keep them out, but your family's job is to tell you how awesome you are how excited they are to see you on Saturday. And after the game, regardless of the win or the loss or whatever happens, they're going to tell you did a great job. Your inner circle is going to tell you the truth. Whether you did a great job, didn't do a great job, same thing with us as coaches. For us as coaches, I have to have an inner circle of people that'll tell me the truth. Man, you screwed that up. You did that well. I think you should do it better this way. And that's where you're able to keep the expectations, the outside noise out. They all have cell phones. They all have social media. I have social media, so I see it. The players see it. They certainly watch TV. But when they walk in that building, that's their inner circle. And that's been hard. That takes a lot of buy-in and a lot of trust. That takes years to build. We're 21 months into this process. So I hope that that's where we're headed. But that's how you keep the outside noise out, is that inner circle. And I joke with these guys, but my wife has now been put into our inner circle because she tells me the truth. Just when I get too high, she'll tell me exactly where I stand.
You have said,
You guys can laugh. That's okay. Shu thought that was funny.
you've said all along you want Byram to play more pocket, run maybe a little less this year. How's he adjusting to that?
You've never heard me say that. I've never said I want Byram to run a little less. I think part of Byram's game is that he's a mobile quarterback that makes things happen with his feet and created a ton of first downs for us a year ago, and he'll continue to create a bunch of first downs for us. What I said was Byram, his next step in his progression is for him to feel comfortable in the pocket, get his feet in the ground, and deliver a football consistently over and over again. When you're a first-year starter and first time truly playing with people in front of you, the clock is a lot faster. It's the same way at any position. It all happens really fast. The game is really fast. You could see Byram as the year went on, it all slowed down for him. Now another offseason in the offense, another offseason in the scheme, another offseason with the players around him. That is where the next step for him as a quarterback is to sit in and deliver the football. I hope his game doesn't change in terms of him using his feet to make things happen. That's what makes Byram, in a lot of ways, really special, is that he can create.
Coach, my usual two questions. Going into the game, every head coach has no film on the opponent. What worries you more, not knowing what the other team's going to do or not knowing what your team's going to do in the opener?
Yeah, I think the great thing for us from playing Bethune-Cookman in this case is all three coordinators come back for them, same head coach, so you're going off of schematically. It's going to look at least eerily similar to what you see. Defensively for them, they bring back a ton in the front seven. They've got some new guys in the back end, and so you would assume that structurally it'll look the same. You go back years on the coordinator, and the defense coordinator there is coordinated for a long time, and you look and see if there's a trend of change. That's what you're studying. So you're fortunate to be able to play the same structure of defense, at least you think. Offensively, returning coordinator had been a coordinator prior to, same, you would expect it to be structurally similar. Now, offensively for these guys, they return essentially three starters, new quarterback, new receivers, almost the entire O-line is new. So obviously they're going to look a little bit different based on personnel, but in terms of their DNA, it'll be the same. So you feel like you got film, you're preparing. These guys played some really good football teams a year ago, finished the season 1-2 of their last three, played FAMU really tight in the last game of the year, played Miami and Memphis early in the year. So you've got a wide array of film on Bethune. You feel like you know what you're getting in terms of at least scheme-wise, special teams in the same breath, return a coordinator. So you have something to go off of. For us, I think the excitement or question, I guess, comes in, man, how are your own guys going to play? And just like any other game, you feel like if we play to our potential and play to the best of our ability, we'll have a chance to win every game.
Coach, I don't know if you saw the Florida State-Georgia Tech game, but Florida State gets the ball, marches down the field, scores. It looked like they exhaled and just lost momentum after that. If that happens, you get the ball, go down the field and score. You have to remind your offense, hey, it may not be that easy all game. You got to just keep focused.
Yeah, I didn't watch the game. I shouldn't say that. I watched the fourth quarter of that game, which I thought was awesome. I was just as excited, I think, as everybody else that there was college football on TV. Our own issue a year ago was that we started fast offensively, virtually in every game, and then couldn't sustain. And so if you need a bigger challenge than that as an offense, man, watch last year's film, which we have and have harped on the ability to be consistent. That's the biggest challenge to us offensively right now is not necessarily how you start, which is critically important, but the ability to sustain as you go. And we've talked a lot about situational football. It comes down to third down offense, comes down to tight zone offense, and the ability to finish drives. And that is where the difference for us a year ago from being a top 20 offense and a top 5 offense was situational football.
Is there an area of the team that you feel like you need to improve, that if it does improve, you could really make a jump? Something you're really looking at, saying, man, if we can hit it up here, we're really going to be much better team.
Yeah, I think probably 3 areas. The first area that we addressed in a huge way is the back end of our defense. A ton of explosives a year ago, specifically in the pass game. We feel like we went out and addressed that through recruiting, feel like we addressed that through making schematic changes. Certainly who our personnel is, I think will allow us to be better there. I think the second part of it, we literally just talked about, is situational football on offense. Third down offense, we were right in the middle of the pack in terms of nationally a year ago. We've got to be, at least our style of offense, we have to be able to convert more consistently on third and fourth down. And then the last part of it is just truly schematically on all 3 sides of the ball, the detail part of it being 100% right. Not necessarily the call being right, but the execution of the call. And that's where I think from year 1 to year 2, you're banking on, I see Shu sitting back there, Shuler understanding in year 2 exactly where he's got to fit with a motion. Where a year ago, maybe the motion, if he hadn't seen it before, got us out of rhythm. Small things like that, where in year 2 you have a finer understanding defensively of exactly how the fits are. And if somebody's out of their fit, somebody making them right. Offensively, man, we're off schedule. How do we get back on schedule? Pre-snap penalties, things like that get you off schedule, eliminating because you're so much more comfortable in the system. And that's, I think when you combine all 3 of those things, that's where you hope you take a giant jump. If we don't improve in those 3 areas, then the result will probably be similar. Yeah, great question. So RJ Perry, this is my 4th year coaching RJ, so I've seen this young man go from being a guy that thought he was going to be a hooper in college to growing up and maturing and taking a ton of pride in being an offensive lineman. So huge challenge to him going into the summer. Man, can you solidify this? He played 640 snaps for us a year ago. At left tackle, at left guard, at right tackle. He played everywhere except center. So he's played a ton of snaps. There was so much growth for RJ to make from a consistency standpoint, for his process to be right, for what his mental makeup is, where he's uber competitive, where he refuses to, at times, accept coaching simply because of, man, I feel like I should be able to do that because I'm so athletic. Now coming into a role where, listen, RJ, you got 1 last year at this thing, man. You get 1 last shot, and I think he's handled it as maturely as you can imagine. He's become a leader in that room. He's become an energy giver in that room. I'm super proud of RJ, just how he's grown. I think RJ's super proud of himself and how much he's grown. He's had a really solid camp. I think he's got to continue to improve, but I'm really proud of where he is, and he won that job in camp. We pushed him to to compete at that spot, and he certainly has done a really good job. And he's earned the right to be confident going into week 1 that he's our left tackle. And I think RJ has the ability to play for a long time if he just continues on that track. You brought up Dono. I thought as of last night I hadn't seen final cuts, but their O-line coach is a good friend of mine and has said really, really good things about Dono. They seem to really like him, so I hope he does. It'd be awesome for him. The left guard spot, we've had some injuries through camp where a bunch of guys have competed at that guard spot with Cole Best and Andrew Kilfoyle and Deontay Bowie, Cole Skinner. We've really tried to rotate everybody through there. We feel like leaving camp, we've got depth inside. That's the one spot that we're super comfortable, and I can honestly tell you I feel like all of those guys will play, and especially here through the first 4 or 5 games until we either say, man, we are definitively better with one guy in there, or honestly, in a lot of ways, where we were hoping to get to 8 guys that can play. I feel like right now we have that to where all of those guys are kind of interchangeable, with Cole Best and Cole Skinner being able to play center as well. But all of those guys giving us the ability with Zane Herring to interchange those bodies with Jack Wiltie playing tackle for us and playing guard for us. You feel like, man, we've got 8, maybe 9 guys that you feel like you can go into a game and say, man, like, we're going to be all right depth-wise in there. I'm going to knock on, this isn't wood, but we'll pretend it is, because if we can stay healthy in there and not force guys to play 85, 90 snaps a game, I think we're only going to be better.
Obviously, back on the quarterback situation, still in a worse situation there. What have you seen from Bryce in the fall camp that kind of impressed you, or kind of maybe leaning one way or the other, depending on situational, relief?
Yeah.
For either one of them?
Yeah, been a really, really fun battle to watch. I talked about RJ being the best version of him I've seen. Bryce is another guy that I've known, recruited Bryce. Shoot, this would have been 2020, years ago. I feel like I've known Bryce forever. Bryce today is the best version of him. He's got his body right. He had a really, really good summer. Got his body right, mentally in the best place he's been. He's really, like, him using his feet to be able to create is the best I've ever seen him. He's always had an incredible arm, but he's competed and been really, really fun to watch his growth. Izzy has continued to take steps. Izzy is still just going into his redshirt freshman year, continued to take steps, continuing to grow in the offense. I've been really proud of Izzy and his growth. We're going to leave it at or right now, and I guess we'll find out if one of those guys has got to go, what that looks like. But I would anticipate them both playing at whatever time is right.
And on Bethune's side, like schematically, kind of base level, what is their offense? I know a lot of guys can quarterback, lost 3 receivers. What's kind of their base go-to? They're going to run this sort of play on offense and on defense additionally.
Yeah, they're not drastically different from us. So from a personnel standpoint, you said it. They've got a bunch of new guys in there, and a lot of transfers that can read whatever you want. You will see what it looks like when they come out on Saturday. But they got a bunch of length on the outside. They've got a ton of speed inside. They've got 2 starters coming back on the O-line and a bunch of guys that they've pieced together. So it'll be interesting to see what the O-line looks like. They've got a really deep backfield with a bunch of guys that have played at this level. And so it'll be interesting to see how different it really looks, but they're based out of 11 personnel, similar to us. They use tempo, similar to us at times. But a lot of perimeter run, a lot of gap schemes inside. Like I said, it almost feels like playing us a little bit without the wide splits, but they'll use tempo when they need to, which, fortunate for us, our defense has seen the entire camp. But they'll take their shots vertically when they can. They'll create shots with max protection. And really, that's the base. They'll use some 10 personnel to get speed on the field and play really fast. And they'll use a little bit of 12 personnel to get big. Like I said, I feel like when you watch them, you feel like you're watching us and schematically in a lot of ways.
You kind of made a reference to this at the luncheon last week, but just in talking about NIL, but how much of your time, how often does that pop through your mind, just NIL?
Time off?
No. How often does NIL just
Oh.
pop through your mind? How often do you think about it?
It's part of our game. It's part of what we do. We created a whole department. MK has set aside resources for a whole department for that. It obviously comes up as of today on Tuesday of a game week. I hadn't thought about it. NIL. I think it's in the back of your mind in the sense that you're constantly looking for ways to generate revenue. I think probably used to not be the head coach's job to think about that. It certainly has become that. But in terms of once I saw Coach Gundy talk about it the other day, like it's football season, so we're getting to coach football, and that part of it is over. I don't know that it's ever really over in terms of that you're not thinking about it, but it's part of it. And, we're obviously the loss, the settlement. It's all changing in that regard. It's part of our game. I think the coaches that have accepted that and have found ways to work through it are having success. It doesn't affect our day-to-day. It certainly doesn't affect how our coaches coach or how our players play. But it's just part of what it is right now, and I'm totally cool with it.
Alex, it seems like a common thread when you speak to us and when the position coaches have spoken to us this preseason. There's actually something that goes back to December that everybody seems to be very pleased with the depth. And if you could speak to that effect, it seems to be maybe one of the best takeaways of the preseason, but again, the year overall, going back to December, when you started to bring in some new players, help bolster positions and so forth.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with the second year in the program, because you truly do have to develop depth. I don't care if you're at what level you're at, you still have to develop depth. This is always going to be a developmental program in terms of you're very rarely just going to get straight up ready-made guys. And so you've now had 2 years to develop the freshmen we signed in our first class. You've had most of our freshmen in this class got here at semester, so you've had 7-8 months to develop those guys. So you feel like you've bolstered depth. You're also healthy going into the season, which allows you to have depth. I'm not naive in the sense that, man, you're one injury away from not feeling like you have depth at most spots. We're deeper at certain spots than we are others, but I think that comes with 2 years of recruiting, 2 years of strength training, 2 years of nutrition, 2 years in the system, where you have inevitably created the depth because more young guys are ready to play than there certainly were a year ago. You also recruited this offseason based on your holes, so you were able to create depth by just inevitably saying, man, we don't have a receiver on the outside that's ready to play. Let's take two, knowing you need to have one. So that's how we've been able to create depth. And if both of those hit, then you end up with two guys that can play, which then therefore creates depth. But I think the longer you're in a program, unless something crazy happens where you get completely depleted, you're naturally going to create depth.
This question kind of out of left field, but you have a pretty eclectic mix of music during your practices. What does Alex Golesh listen to on his Spotify or his iTunes? What do you like to listen to?
You know what? I'm really glad you asked that question, because I actually, in July, took over the playlist for practice. That's one of the things in year two you feel like, man, all right, I got a grip on what's going on. I'm going to take over the playlist, because originally Jeremy Lees, who does a phenomenal job with our equipment and does a phenomenal job taking care of our guys and our staff, has done through our evaluation through this first year a terrible job with the music at practice. So I took it over, and it wasn't a knock on him, it's just not his strength, and so I had to fill the gap there. And so if you ever come to our practice, it's maybe one of the greatest mixes in college football. And so it's primarily composed of late 90s hip-hop, and that's pretty much where I draw the line.
Okay.
Pretty much stops there, which educates our guys. A lot of our guys weren't born in the late 90s, and so they are learning, and it's fascinating to teach them a little bit of music history. My free time, honestly, a giant mix. I like country. I like hip-hop. My daughter has Taylor Swift on in the car most of the time, which I succumb to that. A lot of Travis Kelce, Tay conversations go on at that point. But really, big array of stuff. And it's not a knock on Jeremy Lee's. It kind of is a knock on Jeremy Lee's. But we had an incredible camp season with, we had Boy Band Friday, and then we had a little Gospel Sunday as we practiced through those guys. Like Boy Band Friday was an incredible education for these guys. Everything from Jackson 5 to Boys to Men to NSYNC to Backstreet Boys to LFO, like an incredible mix, all for one. Yep. So if anybody needs any help there, I'm here to help.
I'll pass.
Pop culture's part of it. Oh, guys, there's Jeremy Lee's right there, Jeremy.
Right on cue.
His ears were ringing. Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Good morning or afternoon, whatever. How y'all doing?
All right, questions for Jhalyn Shuler.
There's what, 4 guys on the defensive side of the ball. You included, or don't have an or designation on the depth chart. Hawthorne, Mac, yourself, Jason Vaughn. Do you feel like you guys are like that core leadership group on a defense that has aspirations to be much better than they have been over the last couple of years?
Oh yeah, for sure. As a team in general, we want to be as player-led as possible. So having guys that have experience, whether here or at another school, being able to play together in every group, especially like you said, me, Mac, Hawk, the guys on the back end, is crucial to our process and to our success as a team. So being able to have those guys and all be on the same page together per unit controls, you know what I'm saying, the outcome of how we click together as a whole team.
There's expectations for you guys now, and candidly, in the last 2 or 3 years, there really haven't been. Do you sense that vibe that, hey, there are expectations on us now?
I mean, well, it's always been expectations, you know what I'm saying, within ourselves, regardless of like what's expected from the outside. We've always had expectations for ourselves as a team, and then with Golesh coming in, you know, he just made sure we kept the main thing, which is our inner circle. Like, so as far as expectations outside of here, I'm not gonna say it doesn't really matter because, you know, that's always great to have expectations now. But within the building, we've always had high expectations for ourselves.
Do you get to feed off, or do you try and feed off that excitement around this program? Though 35,000, 40,000 people going to be there Saturday. Not just expectations, but the excitement that this program has generated for this area. Do you feel that?
For sure, like you can't ignore stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it's there. You know, with school starting back, you go out on campus and see everybody. You know, tell them, you know, come to the game. Make sure you try to get everybody you can. And them telling you, you know what I'm saying, we'll be there. You know what I'm saying? We happy to see y'all. We're gonna be good this year. Like, you can't ignore that type of stuff. So, yeah, obviously, it gets us a little riled up for the upcoming season.
With the buildup that came along to this program, because everything that's going on, especially last year, does this week feel a little bit different for you than last year leading up to game 1?
Yeah, like, and that just comes with, you know what I'm saying, having, you know what I'm saying, a generally successful season, you know, and then getting more comfortable within ourselves as a team. So, yeah, it's just, it feels a little different as far as, you know what I'm saying, confident-wise.
2 questions. You enter the stadium. Take us through your pregame ritual. What do you actually do?
When we get off the bus, obviously we do the stampede, you know, walk, see all the fans. That's always exciting. Usually my mom's somewhere around there, so I try to find her on my way in. Get into the locker room, put all my stuff down, go on the field, sit down, just sit on the bench, kind of just take in the stadium, you know, listen to whatever they playing around the stadium. If I don't have my headphones, if I have my headphones, it's usually some calm, you know what I'm saying, relaxing music. I try not to listen to no, you know, stuff that get me all the way up because I got to think a lot as a middle linebacker.
It's the kickoff. Do you want to start on the field right away, or do you want to kind of sit back and see how the game's progressing?
Nah. I like our offense on the field first, and I feel like our offense is a momentum starter, like especially with how fast we're going. We're going out the gate showing that our offense is going to be on you, going down, running down, pushing it, and then as soon as we get out, regardless if they score or not, if they score, great, because now defense go out there and do the same thing. We in your face right now. And if they don't, then we get to say come out there and just show, all right, we got their back regardless. Like I would prefer the offense to go out first.
No better feeling than walking on the field up 7-7, right?
Right.
Thanks.
With so many guys returning on defense, is there enough voices in this defensive meetings now where you guys feel comfortable that you can handle any situation, whether you get down behind early, you guys feel like you got to make a play to get back in the game? Because when you're coming off a shutout ball game, and a lot of you guys have returned, do you feel there's a lot of guys that can handle that situation and kind of maybe calm guys down?
Yeah, for sure. For the most part, T.O., our DC and linebackers coach, he likes it when, you know what I'm saying, we can control ourselves, you know what I'm saying, something go wrong, and one of the players are the first ones to be like, all right, look, this happened, we got to fix this, we can straighten it out. Like, it's as little as he has to coach, I feel like he's happier because, like, you know what I'm saying, we have control of the situation, he don't got to do too much. It makes it easier for the group, you know what I'm saying, make sure we as players are all on the same page before we even get the coach involved. But obviously, you know what I'm saying, at times, we do need that voice of our, you know what I'm saying, leader and defensive coordinator, T.O. But for the most part, we got that.
Yeah, Nico Gramatica his family has a history with the number 7. I know he's changed his number. Did he try to get you or Michael Brown Stevens to, hey, $50,
Nah, I mean, he's only a kicker, so, like, he's only on the field, like, while we're kicking the ball. So, like, for the most part, if anything, I just can't go on kickoff now, which is, a little, you know what I'm saying, a little bumming. But, for the most part, we all, you know what I'm saying, know he's 7, but he's only on kickoff. Obviously, me or Mike Brown Stevens can't go out on kickoff now, but that's about it.
Maybe he could be 7.5.
I told him whenever we have like onside or whatever, I'm out there and they like, shoot, you're gonna have to switch numbers. I'm like, why me? We kicking it. I'm finna go on defense. Like, just give him 00 or something, 20 or something. But it's all good. We all good with it.
Anything else for Shu? All right, I appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Mike.
It's a new one?
Yes, fresh.
You gone?
All right, Mike Lofton.
How's everybody doing today?
All right, Mike, I want to ask you 2 questions. Do you feel like the closer in this program that you got to come up and speak to the media every week?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's part of football. It's part of being
for the program, basically, right?
You could say that. I put Byram over me for sure because that's the real face of the program.
Second question: has there ever been a time where you're up there saying, "How about if I sit here and you go up behind the podium and I ask you some questions"?
My first interview for sure. Because I feel like I'm getting better at this interview stuff. Every interview I get. But the first one, I was real nervous, and I was like, I don't know if I'm doing good right now.
Thanks, Mike.
Of course.
From inside the program, what is the noise about this program from the outside sound like to you guys? The excitement level, the expectations. What do you hear, and how do you guys feed off that?
To be honest, like for me, like I pay attention to it, but to go back to what Coach Golesh says, he always says the inner circle. So it's the coaches. The coaches are always going to tell you how it is. But it's if you played a great game or you wet the bed and you didn't play well. We really focus on the inner circle and try and keep everything in-house and like really just don't BS the guys that we're around.
You can't ignore the outside. You sense more of a buzz around this program and this season. Just, walking the campus, going out in the community, do you sense it?
For sure. Especially off of what we did last year, especially on how we recapped the season last year, for sure. But we just got to keep moving forward and take every week and just play the next play.
Mike, is there anything like the first game of the season? College football has your week. Is there anything like preparing for the first game of the season?
No, because it's like you work like 8 months. You're just trying to get to game day. And when it's finally game week, you're like, man, like, I feel like I was just reporting in January 6th, like just working out, just getting to meet the new guys. So it's all kind of surreal right now, but I'm happy because if we get to show all the work that we put in since January and then go shock the world.
Mike, has there been anything that has surprised you or really opened your eyes this preseason camp? Could be an individual or two, it could be something team-related, anything that comes to mind?
I feel like for me, just how close we've all gotten since the start of camp. Like, I know in our room, the O-line room, like walk on to 6-year senior, scholarship guy, like we're all close. We all hang out together. You can see that on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. For sure, I feel like when we play closer together, when we play for each other, that's when we play our best football.
Anything else for Mike? All right,
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a good one. I hope to see you guys on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.